Okay, so I want to do a little video here about the sixth series of Game of Thrones, which has just finished airing, and um, it was really good. The final episode in the series was absolutely outstanding. The series as a whole, it was. It was. I thought it was. Without that the final episode made the whole series really good. But the up until that, I thought it dragged a bit. There's just a lot of stuff that was just drawn out. Especially the Arya stuff and also the Daenerys stuff. Get to Westeros already. It was just going on and on and on. But the final episode of series 6 is what I'm really going to talk about because it just was so good. It was so marvelous, a fine piece of filmmaking, and really, really well acted, and super plotting and super well worked out. Um, so basically, the in series 6, right, the key events are that it's all series 6 is all about rebirths, right? Jon Snow obviously is reborn at Castle Black. Daenerys is reborn in the fires of the Vase Dothraki, and Arya is reborn as Arya Stark. She's no longer no one or seeking to be no one. She is, as she says, Arya Stark of Winterfell, and she's gone home. And Tyrion is reborn also. He's reborn in a way I'm going to talk about in just a second. And Cersei is reborn too, in a manner of speaking, I think. So the just talking. As you know, Jon Snow at the end of season 5 was dead. Was he coming back? Everybody knew he was coming back. So it was just a matter of when. The series started off quite well. That was all quite well done, I thought. And the end of Jon Snow's service. I will for as long as he swore to serve the Night's Watch as long as his life should last, and his life ended, and he was brought back to life by the Red Woman, and so he's now no longer at the Night Watch, and he is now a Stark. And at the end of series 6, he ends up being the Stark at Winterfell. And Daenerys Targaryen obviously was at the end of season 5 was taken out of Meereen by one of her dragons, Drogon, and she was dumped into the the Dothraki grass seas north of Slaver's Bay somewhere, and she got found by one of the Dothraki tribes. And in season 6, she is taken because she's the wife of a former Khalees. She's a Khaleesi, she is taken to Vase Dothraki. That's where the women, the Khaleesis are taken once their husbands die, and she there burns all the just is reborn in fire. Right, she burns down the whole temple and walks out of the fire, and all the Dothraki think she's some kind of goddess, right? So she's reborn, which is kind of an echo of when she was first born as Mother of Dragons in season 1, right? So those are the main events really in the early part of this, and all those things happened in episodes 1, 2, 3, and 4. It kind of dragged in a bit. I don't know why. The other main thing that happened in season 6 is that Bran, of course, becomes is the three-eyed raven. He now is the he's taken over from that old man in the tree. He is now the host of all that wisdom, of all that knowledge of the old gods, and he is aware of who he is and what his destiny is, and so that was quite interesting too, because also, of course, it feeds into the mystery of who Jon Snow is, right? Which So, but in series six, in the final part of series six, it kind of say it dragged. Episode 9, 8, 7. They were all like, there's not a lot happening, and it was just, you know, um, the in the final episode, Tommen um, kills himself, and it's just so well done. Cersei is at the end of season 5, she's made do the walk of shame. She's then once she's done the walk of shame, she goes to the Red Keep, and she's there in the Red Keep, confined to the her chambers, awaiting her full scale trial in front of the High Sparrow, and she is weak all through season 6, right? She's totally disrespected by the people on the small council. She's just super weak, but all the while she's planning this. So that's just this kind of Michael Corleone move, where you just kill the heads of the 5 families in one day, and she uses the wildfire that Ares had put under the Sept of Baelor, not all of which was when Ares wanted to burn the city during Robert's Rebellion. He buried wildfire all over the city, and because the kind of pots that it was in were degrading, they couldn't really be moved again, and the people who what they call the alchemists who were responsible for it, were the maesters have taken over from the alchemists. And the alchemists didn't have enough people to find where all the wildfire were, and so a lot of it was remained in place. And so she found out about this and explored into the question a bit more, and anyway got a bunch of wildfire under the Sept of Baelor, and on the day her trial was supposed to happen, she just absolutely lit the motherfucker up and burned them all. She burned all her enemies in one day. Anyone that wasn't at the Sept of Baelor awaiting her trial, she had knifed or destroyed or executed wherever they were. Pycelle, for example, and just everybody. She just basically killed all her enemies in one go. It was pretty fantastic, and the opening part of the final episode of season 6, just it's just a bell going boing, boing, and you're just seeing the High Sparrow putting on his robes for the trial, and you see Tommen getting dressed and the crown going on his head, and you see Cersei being dressed, and there's no dialogue at all, it's just boing, boing. The whole city is getting ready for this trial, and but Cersei's all dressed in black with these armor-plated things on her shoulders, and she walks out onto the balcony and drinks a glass of wine, and she can see the Sept of Baelor across the city from her, and and then it gets exploded and it goes up in a huge fireball, and then suddenly you see that Cersei too is reborn. Cersei ends up on the Iron Throne, and Tommen does not. She sends the Mountain, Sir Robert Strong, as he is now, to Tommen's room to keep Tommen in his room. Tommen in season 6 gets really taken in by the High Sparrow, and buys into all that stuff, and he wants the trial to go ahead, and he's also got Marjorie to believe in all that crazy religious stuff, and Tommen is just kept in his room like a little boy. I mean, Tommen is the weakest king that we have seen of all. Like, he just has no power, never has had any power, and he's just kept in his room like a little boy. And then as he's in his room, he sees the Sept of Baelor blown up as well, which includes his wife, whom he really loves, and the High Sparrow, whom he really respects, and he just thinks that his whole kingship is shit, and the way he commits suicide is just fantastic. He just takes the crown off his head, puts it on a table, walks over to the window, and throws himself out, all silent, and just amazing, because it's just like, it's unexpected, it's really quite moving, and beautifully, it's just all beautifully filmed. And by the way, that's the last of Cersei's children now. All of them are dead. But that falling from the window in the tower, in the king's tower at the Red Keep, is a kind of echo of Bran falling from the tower at Winterfell in season 1, which started off, which was the start off of all this story. So, there was so many, this was so well plotted, and there were so many echoes of different things, connected to one another. It was just remarkable. So that was really good. And then, as I say, at the end, Cersei is crowned, and she looks amazing. Like, she really is totally transformed, and just looks. I can't tell you how they. I don't even understand how they achieved the way that she looks as she's going up to be crowned, and as she is crowned, she is now this terrifying creature, right? Who is willing to burn the whole city, and everyone in it. She's now a terrifying creature, and Jaime, her brother and lover, is looking at her, and even he, I'm sure, is thinking, who is this fucking creature? Because he's been up the country dealing with rebellions. He does not know how Tommen died, and even if she tells him, "Oh, he threw himself," Tommen threw himself out of a window, Jaime's not going to believe her, because he's now looking at this person. Because remember, he killed Aerys, Mad King. Jaime killed Mad King Aerys, to stop this city being burned, and now his lover, his sister, his twin sister, this person for whom he's done everything that he's done, is now, has burned half the aristocracy in the city, and would clearly burn everyone in the city. She's now the crazy person that he, is just amazing. So there's that, and so that's really well done. As I say, Jon Snow is reborn. Daenerys is reborn. She's reborn. She's now got all of the Dothraki things. She's some kind of goddess. She's gone back to Meereen. And Tyrion has been trying to run the place back there with Varys, and he's kind of done some good things, but the slave masters have risen up against him too. And Shira is back right at the height of that, and with her dragons, the slave masters are in a fleet of ships, and just doesn't burn all the ships because she wants them, but she burns enough of them to actually defeat the slave masters. And so they reconquer Meereen. They go down to Astapor and the other slaver city, kill everyone basically who didn't stick to the deal that Tyrion made, and excuse me, and so now she's got her fleet, and she's got her Dothraki army, she's got the Unsullied, and she's got her dragons, and she's ready to go to Westeros. By the way, also in season 6, Theon Greyjoy and his sister turn up at Meereen and offer them the ships, Ironborn ships. So she's got a full, and by the end of season 6, in fact, the very last scene in season 6 is her and her dragons and her armies and her fleet sailing west to Westeros. So, as they, the other person who's reborn here is Arya. Arya is finally finished with the Faceless Men, or the House of Black and White, or whatever you want to call it. And she, it just went on and on and on with this fucking Karate Kid shit about her, her being trained to be a fighter who can fight blind and fight without looking, and blah 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 blah. Went on for too long, and eventually that. I won't even bore you with going into it. Eventually, she, the waif who was teaching her to tries to, she basically, Arya refuses to serve the Faceless Men, having been trained by them, and so they tell the waif to kill her, and the waif doesn't kill Arya. Arya kills the waif, and she goes back and she says, "I'm Arya Stark. What are you going to do about it? I killed the bitch. Send anyone else after me, I'll kill him too." So there it is. And the Faceless Men have their face. They don't care. They let her go. In fact, they just like her, and we'll see. So she's back in Winterfell. By the way, the one good thing in the whole Arya storyline, which was really well done, I really thought was good, even though the whole thing dragged on for too long. But they did this kind of recreation of um, basically like a Game of Thrones version of Shakespeare. Um, you know, the way Shakespeare wrote plays about Henry V and Henry IV Part 1 and Henry IV Part 2 and Richard III and the whole kind of history of England thing. And also, he, of course, wrote plays reflecting the world that they actually lived in. Um, like Macbeth, you know, and King Lear are, you know, they're plays about what was happening in England at that time. Um, and um, and Hamlet too, and um, what they did really well there was that in Bravos, they had this troupe of actors who were kind of doing a recreation of the death of Joffrey and the death of Ned Stark and the death of Tywin Lannister, and it was done in rhyming couplets. You know, Richard E. Grant was the leader of the acting troupe, and it was actually really good because it was like a wonderful play on how, you know, how history and stories get warped. You know what I mean? Like in the theatrical version of the death of Ned Stark. Ned Stark is like this northern fool, right? And Joffrey and Cersei were actually the heroes of the story. And you know, you don't know whether that's propaganda or just the warping of theatre or whatever. But it was a terrific little play, and Arya sees this, by the way, while she's in Bravos. And you know, at first she's appalled at the portrayal of her father, and then she's just fascinated by the, you know, the story. You know, stances in the play as well, and so that was really clever and really good, and it was kind of interesting and very well written. The rhyming couplets were fantastic, and the kind of mock acting was really well done. It was quite difficult to do because they were it was kind of mockery, and yet it was kind of had to be done well enough to be, you know, it was super, and then had to be interesting too, and they achieved all those things. But eventually, Arya just says, "Fuck off! I'm living my own life," and she goes back and to Westeros and kills Walder Frey, he of the Red Wedding. And it's just fantastic the way they do it, because you just do not see that coming, because they set it up with a kind of a scene. Jamie has to go north from King's Landing to recapture the River Run because the Freys have lost the fucking place, and so the Walder Frey's children are fools, and he has to go and recapture River Run. He does so, and then he goes back to the twins. They have a banquet in celebration of recapturing the River Run, and Walder Frey is kind of speaking to Jamie like he's an equal, like, you know, and Jamie just says, you know, what's the fucking point? We give you River Run, you know. And what's the, you know, what use are you to us if we have to come north and recapture it for you every time you fucking lose it, you know? So don't speak to me like you're an equal, because you're just a dope, you know? And then next thing you see the serving girl the following day serving Walder Frey, and you just know there's an execution coming, right? But you think it's Jamie who has set up this execution, but it's not. It's fucking Arya Stark. She goes in, she cuts his fucking throat, at Walder Frey's throat, and before she does so, she says, "I'm Arya Stark, and I want you to know that my face is the last face you're going to see while you bleed to death." And you know, which is the, you know, payback for the Red Wedding. The other person who's really importantly reborn is Tyrion Lannister, right, at Meereen, right, and this is not as obvious a rebirth as Jon Snow or Daenerys or even Cersei, but it is or even Arya is reborn as Arya Stark, but it is a rebirth, because what he is you know, all his life he's been a Lannister. Everything he's done, you know, despite being a dwarf, he's learned to ride. He's had access to books for learning. You know, when he was Hand of the King before, or acting hand at King's Landing, he had that position because his father gave it to him. Everything he's done in his life is because he's a Lannister. But here in Meereen, being a Lannister is a disadvantage to him, and he nevertheless rises to the top and proves a valuable counselor, but he does this on his own merits, and so it's so that when Daenerys makes him her hand, just before they sail for Westeros, she makes him hand of the Queen, and gives him the badge and everything, right? Which is basically like being Prime Minister. It's a very moving scene, and so he's reborn too, right? That he's because he's left Westeros in disgrace, and he's going to come back as one of the most powerful men in Westeros. So that's it. It was a terrific series. It was really good. The acting was just fantastic. There was some fantastic Anton Lesser is just amazing in it, and there's just so many good actors, and it's just a terrific series and really really well done. Actually, that's all I have to say because I'm sure this video is already too long. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that.